Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back again. This is Ken Shoulders number 54, and we're going to go more into the dodecahedron, which is this right here. That's a dodecahedron, which has 5 sides and 12, or sorry, 5 here and yeah, and then 12 in total. And this is basically the shape of, or the cymatic shape of the Turing wave, which is just a frequency essentially down at the subquantum level. And these slides are from Stavati Aerospace and David Wilcock again from like, 4.5, maybe almost 5 years ago now, 4.5 years ago. So we're going to go through some more interesting stuff and probably talk about something that most people have never heard of at the end of all this, or a couple things actually, a couple of really cool things. So I'll let you guys do your thing, and thank you, Chip, for reading today.
Okay.
This is the first slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me just to go ahead and read the slides?
Yeah, just go ahead. And one thing I will say is we'll definitely jump into this guy a little bit more in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. John Baez,
Yeah.
dodecahedral electron clouds is the title of the presentation. Quantum dodecahedron. Take a hydrogen atom and look at the wave function of the electron. Bullet 2. Question 1. Can we make the electron's wave function have all the rotational symmetries of a dodecahedron? That wonderful platonic solid with 12 pentagonal faces. There's a picture of the zoo of crystals. There's a tetrahedron, an octahedron, a cube, a icosahedron, and a dodecahedron.
Yeah.
Platonic solids, I think they're called. Quantum dodecahedron, quantum being the operative word there.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are lots of wave functions where the magnitude of an electron's angular momentum is completely definite.
So I'd almost say subquantum dodecahedron.
Yes.
Right?
Slide 2.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
However, there are lots of wave functions where the magnitude of the electron's angular momentum is completely definite. Bullet 2. This leads naturally to the next question, which was first proposed by Gerard Westendorp.
Another guy we should dive into.
Yes, that question being, question 2 has a trivial solution that's too silly to bother with. It is spherically symmetric. It is the spherically symmetric wave function that's invariant under all rotations. The real challenge is to figure out the simplest non-trivial solution. Greg Egan figured it out, and here's what it looks like. Invariant. Maybe this deserves to be called a quantum Coxeter complex, since the Coxeter complex for the group of rotations and reflections of this dodecahedron looks like this. And on the next slide, really quantum beach ball. The Hesdalen lights.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, but this is really
I have not. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Hesdalen lights, almost like the flower of life if you invert the thing or flatten it. All right, next slide. Relative to the Hesdalen lights, it looks like, has the mystery of glowing Norwegian orbs been solved? Experts claim a natural battery creates the amazing light show. Hesdalen lights can be as large as cars and have been spotted in Oslo. Bullet two, numerous theories have attempted to explain how they are created. Bullet three, one claims metallic rocks divided by a sulfurous river provide a natural battery which provides the right conditions for the orbs. Bullet four, Italian expert used samples from the site to make a battery to test this idea. Bullet five, he thinks bubbles of ionized gas are made when sulfurous fumes from the river Hesia react with humid air, forming the balls of light. Bullet six, but other experts think they're a type of ball lightning or made from plasma. Sarah Griffiths. So we have a visual here. Title on the visual, great balls of fire, flashing balls of light that can be as large as cars are known as the Hesdalen phenomena pictured. They have attracted attention from ufologists, but now scientists think the unusual lights could be formed by a natural battery. Okay. Location of Hesdalen in central Norway, about 200 miles from the coast. Scientists revealed that the lights of Hesdalen, which lies 400 kilometers north of Oslo, 250 miles, make no sound, appear to be cool, and do not leave any scorch marks on the ground, unlike ball lightning. They do, however, sterilize an area upon contact, killing soil microbes.
So I do have a little bit of a comment about that because we know, and I know from Chris Beskar saying this, that charge clusters can be used to de-radiate nuclear waste within as little as 48 hours. That last statement, talking about killing soil microbes, is probably a little bit of a clue here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Continuing with Hesdalen lights, researchers noticed a small fluctuation in the area's magnetic field before the formation of the lights. Bullet two, they revealed that the lights make no sound, appear to be cool, and do not leave any scorch marks on the ground, unlike ball lightning. Bullet three, they do, however, sterilize an area upon contact, killing the soil microbes. And I'm wondering, is this the same stuff that killed Ken Shoulders? Okay, YouTube. Stein Johansson picture. And there is a red orb. Very well culminated.
Do you want to say something about it, Eddie?
No, they'll show another one. There was a whole bunch more of these shots, but I didn't have enough. I can only send 32 of these to you, so I didn't include some of them. So I think the next one just shows that, oh, maybe I didn't include them all. Okay.
All right, next slide. Talking about powerful events of Jupiter in July of 1994, article by A.N. Dmitriev, Modern Problems in Natural Sciences in the Novosibirsk State University in 1996. The after effects of the explosion of self-luminous formations on Jupiter in July 1994 are considered to be the result of relaxation of a swarm of plasmoids generated in the solar system region of maximal energetic and material heterogeneity. Cosmophysical formation, widely known as Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet, is still far from having a reliable single meaning interpretation. And the indefiniteness of an explanatory definition has tended to increase proportionally with the arrival of new information. Who wrote that? Jesus.
I don't know.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
All right.
This is going to be a bit more.
Planetophysical functions of vacuum domains. Here is Mr. Dmitriev again.
Yeah, and that term vacuum domains is what I was kind of alluding to. Most people haven't heard of them before, but this is really, really important stuff here.
Yeah, that's vacuum pops right out of that page.
Yeah.
Got a couple of his Russian buddies with him. Dyatlov and Titenov, and they are from the Geologic Institute, Mathematics Institute, State University. All right, introduction. Number one, the authors have developed a model of united electrogravitic dynamics, electrogravidynamics based on Maxwell's electrodynamics and Heaviside's, Ms. Minkowski's Poincare's gravidynamics. Okay, so they merged several different 1800s theories. The model introduces a new object of study, a vacuum domain, which is being considered in the general model of the physical vacuum and its non-homogeneity on a local modification or a local modification where the electrodynamics and the gravidynamics are coupled.
Very important
Where,
thing, right?
yes, a local modification, local frame where the electrodynamics and the gravidynamics are coupled. Whereas outside the vacuum domain, there is no such coupling at all. Vacuum domains in the model possess a set of specific features, which include penetration through any kind of matter, where the vacuum domains introduce the electric, magnetic, gravitational spin fields and the distributed angular momentum. Inside the VDs, penetrating gravispin waves, gravitons, are transformed into the electromagnetic waves or photons.
Also important again.
Yes. Complete coupling across the primordial soup, the superforce, to all the Earth's shells, from magnetosphere to mantle. The vacuum domains bring electric circuits and discharges, magnetic variations and pulses, mechanical stresses and changes in the velocity and intensity of chemical reactions in the atmosphere, heliosphere, and lithosphere. All these phenomena are unexplainable by classic theories. Vacuum domains are localized in the lithosphere, in the conductive and elastic media, where they may produce pulsed heat release, such as contact heat explosions, forming kimberlite pipes, diamond pipes, and produce enormous torsion stress affecting the nature of tectonophysical processes in the seismic regime of the Earth.
One thing I'll say here, Chip, is that the Russians are the very best in the world at designing synthetic diamonds, because actually when they do it, they're compressing time, and that's what this is all about, essentially.
My God.
And those kimberlite pipes don't come up from the ground. They're formed by this energy, and you're going to see a picture of it here in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you finished?
No, let's see. VDs are identified with manifold natural self-luminous objects of different kinds, such as ball lightnings, plasmoids, poltergeist, tornadoes, angels, small comets, and atmospheric holes, ionosphere and atmospheric explosions, lithospheric explosion tubes, sprites, the glows connected with the earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, thermophilites. That's why the study of natural self-luminous formations provide the experimental foundation for the development of physical and mathematical model, non-homogeneous physical vacuum and vacuum domains. Okay.
And this one here, everyone should, this is like a rock star thing here.
Got a Excel matrix here, essentially. Properties, description, phenomena on the y-axis. Vacuum domains, ball lightnings, etc. All the ones we just went through. Self-luminous objects, poltergeists, tornadoes, angels, blah, blah, blah. And then a description of their properties or physical expressions. Penetration through matter. Geometry, sphere, ellipsoid-like, self-luminates, luminescence, light absorption, additional properties for electromagnetic emission, electric field, mag field, levitation, rotation of the air, dust, etc. Interesting. Explosions and connection with the active sun. Okay, vacuum domains gets check marks in every one of those. Ball lightnings gets check marks in every one of those except levitation.
Yep.
Well, they do float. All right. Natural self-luminous objects, check marks across the board. Poltergeist, check marks across the board, except for 5. Electroemission, electrical field, levitation, rotation, connection with the active sun. Tornado. Okay. No geometry, sphere, ellipsoid, etc., and no levitation on the tornadoes. No connection with the sun. Angels, 3 pluses there, check marks for penetration through the matter, self-luminescence, light absorption, and electromagnetic emission. Negatives for all the other properties.
Notice that the poltergeist beat the angels.
I did. My God, how can that be? Interesting. All right. So we're down to small comets or atmospheric holes. Only 3 check marks, penetration through matter, self-luminescence, and electromagnetic emission. Everything else negative. Okay. Ionosphere and atmospheric explosions. Good check marks in the first 3, penetration through matter, geometry, sphere, ellipsoids, etc., self-luminescence, and explosions. Everything else is negative. All the fields in the solar connection. Interesting. Okay. All right, so let's see, where are we? Lithospheric explosion pipes.
5 pluses.
Yes, 5 pluses split evenly, pretty much. First 4, penetration, geometry, self-luminescence, electromagnetic emission are all pluses. Negatives for all the fields, electric mag, levitation, and rotation. Plus for explosions. Lithospheric explosion pipes, that makes sense, all right. Nothing with the sun. Sprites and elves, high atmospheric sprites, those are crazy. I've seen them myself.
Mhm.
Penetration, first 3 are all positive. Penetration, geometry, sphere, ellipsoid, and self-luminescence. Negative on EM emission. Positive on the electric field. Yeah, that's what they are. And then negative for everything else. Okay. Get along with that. All right. Glowing's connected to the, fracto emission type stuff. It looks like earthquakes and volcanic eruption, Marfa lights. It's 5 positives in a row all the way through the electric field. 3 negatives on mag, levitation, and rotation in the air. And the last 2 are also positive. Explosions, I did not know that. Connection with an active sun, as in solar flares, etc. God bless the Russians. Okay.
Yeah, no
Vacuum
doubt.
domains. Model introduces a new object of study, a vacuum domain, VD, which is being considered in the general model of the physical vacuum, PV, as its non-homogeneity or local modification, where the electrodynamics and the gravidynamics are coupled. Whereas outside the vacuum domain, there is no such coupling at all. I'm not sure about that. We'll hold that thought. All right, next slide. Continuing with vacuum domains. Vacuum domains in the model possess a set of specific features, which include penetration through any kind of matter. Oh, that's interesting. Where the VDs introduce the electric, mag, gravitational, spin fields, and the distributed angular momentum. Inside the vacuum domains, penetrating gravispin waves, as in gravitons, are transformed into the electromagnetic waves or photons.
That's probably the most important thing we'll say today. And you're going to see a picture of it at some point here again.
Yeah, this is the superfluid Hassim talks about, the Sal Paez talks about. Okay. And John Hutchinson understands innately.
Yeah.
Vacuum domains. To all the Earth's shells from magnetosphere to mantle, the VDs being electric circuits and discharges, magnetic variations and pulses, mechanical stresses and changes in the velocity and intensity of chemical reactions in the atmosphere, heliosphere, or lithosphere. Colon. Going on to the next slide. To all the Earth's shells, I repeat, the second bullet is all these phenomena being unexplainable by classic theories. Okay. Vacuum domains. VDs are localized in the lithosphere in the conductive and elastic media, where they may produce pulsed heat release, such as contact heat explosions, forming kimberlite pipes, and produce enormous torsion stress affecting the nature of tectonophysical processes and the seismic regime of the Earth.
So enormous torsional stress. Again, they're spinning time and compressing time into like maybe a billion years into a microsecond or whatever, right? And that's how they create these diamonds with the vacuum domain. Again, thank the Russians. And so people that have seen my channel know that this symbol or this is on my channel. This is forming a kimberlite pike. This is what we're talking about right here.
Yeah,
I
this
caught a
is
picture of it.
it looks like a sprite,
It
correct?
it's
And
it's not. It's not
it's
though.
not.
It's this
Okay.
compression of time where the like it says the gravitons are forming into photons essentially, right? Within what's going on in there. So essentially what's in the middle of that is a compression of time because of torsion. And the Russians are the very best at torsional mechanics, right? So that's why
They're
we always
produced
say
by a machine or a natural phenomena.
this is nature.
Nature.
In this is nature, but in when they form and build diamonds, they're actually using a machine, right? Yeah,
Is that actually making contact with the earth then?
yeah,
That's actually touching the ground, right?
yeah. This is touching the ground, and this is what forms the kimberlite pikes.
Yeah.
And this,
Wow.
so this is a vacuum domain at its
But
very best, essentially, right?
Eddie, how long does it last for? Is it there for a few seconds or
Oh,
something?
it's I don't know exactly how long it's there for, but it's not very long, right? But again, our visual of this that it might be there for a few seconds, but within that time, there could be a billion years involved inside of that, right? Depending on how much torsional stress is being created, and that's how diamonds are actually formed. Yeah.
Oh God, this is a portal too. We just messed with the gravitational field. We just messed with time, right? Coupled.
Yeah.
Thank you, Albert. Wow.
Yeah. So this right here is, and again, it's the Russians, right? Look at all the Russians' names. I think these are all the same guys as the last slide, but this really explains it a lot.
Yeah, the Kimberley mining district is in South Africa, the northern part of South Africa. It's where the term kimberlite comes from.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there's scattered potholes all over the landscape up there, and the diamond pipes. The diamonds are found inside the pipes, but nobody's ever tried to explain at a quantum with a quantum mechanism like this exactly what the hell they are. When I studied it years ago, and they taught me, and I'm going, "What the hell are these? This is nuts."
They taught you probably that they come up from the ground, right? Like through the
Yes,
earth. Well, yeah, they don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
the classical geophysical description.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. New constraints from the theory of non-homogeneous physical vacuum by the same bunch of Russians. Novosibirsk. Okay. Physical model. Classic models of kimberlite eruption include explosive boring volcanism, fluidization, and hydrovolcanism, briefly reviewed in Mitchell 1986. All the models have both positive and negative features. Source of explosion energy is one of the most important problems discussed. The source of the energy. Okay. We present here new constraints to physical model of kimberlite formation based on the theory of physical vacuum. The kimberlite pipes are considered an intrusion of the vacuum domain, VD, into the lithosphere. Not the other way around.
Hmm.
The problem of intrusion, movement, and explosion of a vacuum domain in the Earth's crust are solved. The problems, okay, got the tense of the verb right here. Earth crust are solved using a model of non-homogeneous physical vacuum, NPV. NPV as a localized space volume is described via a model of macroscopic electrogravidynamics by Dyatlov, 1995. The explosion model considers quasi-statistical case, considers a quasi-statistical case and establishes a deep-scaled field interaction between the VD and solid rocks. Deep-seated field
I think it's
interaction.
deep-seated. Yeah, deep-seated.
Yes. Between the VD and solid rocks, which takes into account a partial time derivative. Well-known electric and mag field equations in quasi-static approximation, where time delay caused by electric wave propagation is equal to 0, are also used. Macroscopic electrogravidynamics deal not only with the electric wave's length, but also with the length of the gravispin waves. Studying in this model portion of space includes VD body and its nearest neighborhood. In the quasi-static approximation, Russian authors, the problems of electric field and electric current and problems of magnetic field and electric current are divided. Besides problems of electric gravitation and problems of magnetospinorics are also supported.
Spinorics, I think magnetospinorics.
Yeah, binders or spinners, yeah. God, they're leaving nothing out of this.
Yeah.
They're folding in everything. I like that. The Russians kind of shoot for the moon. They don't go for an 80% solution.
Yes.
They throw the whole damn thing in and then try to figure it out.
And these guys, I mean, like that guy in the middle, especially, his name shows up continually through all of this. This is their research, essentially, right?
Yes.
And brought to our attention again by Chris Beskar and David Wilcock, right, years ago. Yeah.
They're trying to tell us how the universe works without.
So Eddie, where did you get this from? Was it from Chris Beskar or John Hutchison or someone else?
David Wilcock and Chris Beskar.
Yeah.
These are all David Wilcock slides, but they were presented with Chris Beskar, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And that's
Right,
that Stavati portal thing that I talk about sometimes, right? I've got 10 hours of these guys talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's essentially this disclosure.
Yeah, it is.
With that slight head fake, look, guys, think for a minute and you'll figure out exactly how the hover car is going to work here. All right, so Paris, Reuters. Vast solar tornadoes, nearly as wide as the Earth and gusting up to 300,000 miles an hour, as in Jupiter, have been discovered by the European Space Agency's SOHO spacecraft. The agency said in a new report, SOHO, which observes the sun from 900,000 miles out in space, has detected a dozen tornadoes whipping across the solar surface, most of them near the sun's north and south poles. During its 2 years in service, ESA said in Tuesday's report. The newly discovered phenomenon may help scientists better understand the impact of solar wind, which buffets the Earth's environment, causing auroras, magnetic storms, and endangering satellites and power supplies, ESA said in a statement. We are the hot gas in the we see the hot gas in the tornado spiraling away from the sun and gathering speed. These spectacular events in the sun's atmosphere must have widespread effects. Quote, British scientist David Pike from the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory is quoted saying, that's his quote, is there really excuse me, is there really any question concerning the relationship between EMFs, the sun, and terrestrial tornadoes?
EMF meaning electromagnetic force?
Field.
Electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
Wow. Think about that for a few minutes. That's an interesting stretch.
Yeah. I can also add that the corona of the sun is filaments of vortex action the entire way.
Mhm.
Uh, it's all over the place, and so and produces way too much anomalous energy. And
Yeah.
that was straight out of I think Scientific American summarized it. So it's old knowledge, but they still puzzle over it. Why should the corona be so hot?
Yeah.
It's way too hot, way hotter than what's inside the sun.
Yeah, in the center. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you just mentioned that's common tornado, common vortex phenomena is the kind of the key that keeps repeating.
Yeah.
And now they're pointing out the big ones, the monsters, what they're calling the huge tornadoes coming out of this thing.
Yeah.
Spinning incredibly fast. All right.
Kozyrev was big on pointing that out also, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. My favorite Russian scientist by far.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a neat book that just came. It was one of the slides, and I thought I'd kind of include it as well. Time storms, right? Because think
Yeah.
about that Kimberlite Pike. It's really a time storm that is actually forming that. So that's a really great name.
Okay. Ball lightning is a vacuum domain in action. Slide. Going to the next slide, you see a picture. Ball lightning in somebody's front room. Everybody's scattering. And it is very coherent, non-dissipative. Celestial light, very
Big,
bright.
big charge cluster, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of you guys have seen ball lightning? I have.
Not in real life, but I've seen videos. There was some in Alberta not long ago. I'll see if I can find that and show you guys. It was
Watch them
phenomenal.
crawl.
Yeah.
Watch them crawl up and down trees and skitter along the ground and
How long
splatter
have they been
plasma
studying
everywhere.
that? How long have they been studying ball lightning for? I mean, they've obviously known about it for thousands of years. I mean,
They had to actually be fascinated with it. I don't know
maybe they
that
thought it was
any of
deep
the
levels or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know if any of the early
Lightning is-
Greek philosophers or anything ever wrote about them.
Yeah.
I
The
could look
Russians
that
have
up.
done a lot of
I could look
research
that
on
up
it.
in ChatGPT or something like
Yeah.
that.
No. What did Paul have to say about
Yeah.
that?
Well, the Russians have done a lot of work on the ball lightning, but in America and in Europe, it's basically been, mocked, and the scientists have always said, "Oh yeah, it doesn't exist, and there's no evidence and all that," for many years. But really, that's part of their suppression. They didn't want anyone to
Yeah.
look down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They tell you not if they tell you something stupid, then you know it's real. It's
Yeah.
important. Next
Oh,
slide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is kind of important or interesting with our conversations about the dodecahedron because these have been found I think over 100 of them in Europe and Eastern Europe for the most part. But this is your dodecahedron, right? Again, and it'll talk a little bit more about this.
Okay. Digest this for a moment. Just looking at some of the simple geometry associated with it.
I'm not sure why the nodes or the balls are on each surface there. What are they
Yeah.
trying to convey? Because these are super old, right? We're going to see here in a second that they've been dug out of the ground for a long, long time.
Oh my God, is that golden ratio circles on the front of them? It looks like it.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Should we go back?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, do that. Go back real quick. I'm looking at, is that what he's trying to show? And it's some fractalization is coincidence for measure. It's just the passing thought. He raises the thought and doesn't answer it, but that's maybe what it is.
Yeah, and the latest that I've heard on these things is that they've analyzed the metal, and there's human bone ash that they've discovered in some of these. So
Wow.
they might have used them in a funeral pyre kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, to cohere for the next incarnation, cohere the spirit or something with
All right.
the dodecahedron.
Yeah.
Well, we know it's the basic building block of the universe, essentially,
Yeah,
right? So there's, yeah, but
that's
so,
probably it's probably as close to the face's source as you can get, looking right at it.
well, it actually is the frequency of source in our universe. That's what the dodecahedron is, essentially, the
Yeah.
Turing wave, right? That's exactly what it is.
So here is a short note on the enigma of the Roman dodecahedra. Roman dodecahedron is a small hollow object made of bronze, more rarely stone, with a geometrical shape that has 12 flat faces. Each face is a pentagon, a five-sided shape. The Roman dodecahedra are also embellished with a series of knobs on each corner point of the pentagons. And the pentagon faces in most cases contain circular holes in them. More than 200 years after they were first discovered, researchers are no closer in understanding the origin and function of this mysterious object. Roman dodecahedra date from the 2nd or 3rd centuries AD, typically range from 4 centimeters to 11 centimeters. It's 1.5 to 4 1/3 inches in size. To date, more than 100 of these artifacts have been found across Great Britain, Belgium, Germany, France, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Austria, Switzerland, and Hungary.
All
Central
right.
Europe.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Back at the beginning again. Okay.
Yeah. So comments, what do you guys think?
I think the folks in Atlantis knew what was going on with these. I think they understood it. It got lost for about 80,000 to 85,000 years, and then Romans showed up, found one somewhere, started
Well,
scratching their heads.
yeah, I think it could be a Celtic Druid connection too,
Oh,
given
yeah.
the indications, right?
Yeah.
And probably were there when the Romans got there.
It had to be made with advanced technology. So right
Yeah,
away, there's a connection there. Could come from the deep past, or if it was more recent, that means some type of contact has occurred where they're able to get these. Nobody's going to bother building something like that by hand, and nor will it be very good.
So
So
Eddie,
it's coming from something advanced.
Yeah.
What's the big deal about the dodecahedron that you were talking about before? What's so important about the dodecahedron?
Well, the dodecahedron is the frequency of source or the Turing wave in our reality or in our one dimension that is the universe, right? And it's the main building block, but essentially it's just a
And of
cymatic.
course, with an esoteric, and they talk about it in esoterica, don't they, as well? Esoteric, um, maybe the Romans, Egyptians, whatever. So they had an important place for the dodecahedron. Is that right?
Well, I would say what Chip has said basically that they have had, and Moray said that they've had this advanced knowledge before, and we're just relearning it, essentially, right? That's what
You got it.
what it
You
comes
got it.
down
You got
to.
it from. We also got it from Delana Dana and some other people talking about it as well.
The
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
yes,
Interceder's book a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Does
she does talk about it, yeah, a little bit.
does Paul
Yeah.
Laviolette talk about it too? That the importance of that platonic solid. Does Paul
Um,
mention it
don't,
in his book?
he doesn't. If he does, he hasn't talked about it much. I mean, I don't recall him talking about it, but he might have known something about it. I don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
Of
Dan
course,
Winter has,
Dan Winter, of
yeah,
course.
yes, has talked
yeah.
multiple for
Paul,
his many slide decks on the ratcheted dodecahedron, which is our DNA. I mean, damn thing's at the core of our engine room.
Yeah.
So,
but I
so,
know that Paul was very into, investigating ancient wisdom and decoding it and stuff like that. So I think that's how it would relate too. But also, it's 12 pentagonal,
12 sides,
12 pieces.
five edges on each face.
yeah,
12
pentagon with
sides.
12 sides,
Because
yeah.
the math is interesting too, like the 12, and it relates to, esoteric math and sacred geometry, and it
Yeah.
all connects.
The,
You know,
Bob, is
the,
esoterica like esoterica,
Yeah.
so the,
hermetic
tw- the
or Kabbalah or whatever?
so the 12, what's important here is in our universe, in this single dimension that is our universe, source is at the 13th density, and the dodecahedron is at 12. And that's why there's 12 surfaces on this.
And also, Elena
And,
Dana would have
and
known about it from being an archaeologist. You may have come across it in archaeology or whatever.
yeah, I think more of this dodecahedron comes from Stavati, like stuff that I just showed you, because there is more of this as well from them.
And
Is
the
but
ETs as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I would imagine that Chris may very well have an inversion process that recreates the frequency wave that created the solid. All right. So you have to build a model, a stochastic model, and you invert the solid back to the frequency that created it. Once you have that, now you can decode all the goddamn crop circles for all that very interesting stuff. I wish somebody would do that.
oh,
Requires getting a damn shaker board, doing a whole
yeah,
lot of modeling and figuring out the math. And now we have, oh, Jesus, the primer key, as in Jodie Foster in Contact, to decode the whole goddamn mess.
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah, that would
so
be awesome.
so the dodecahedron, and you said it's, and this is from Dan Winter as well too, because it's this dodecahedron in this particular shape is in space time where we are. But what ends up happening is it inverts on itself. So it goes into itself, so it implodes, and that implosion puts us into time space. And when it explodes or when it comes back out, now we're in space time. So that's actually the Turing wave pulsing, going from an implosion to an explosion, right? And it's going from, yeah, space time to time space. But there is sort of four-wave mixing going on because orthogonally you have this flux coming in from the ether, essentially. So you have the Turing wave going back and forth like this, but 90 degrees, you also have this flux coming back and forth in from the ether. And
Ed,
that's where all the energy comes from. From the ether, it's tapped from that.
Eddie,
This thing pulsing.
do you believe there's a fourth spatial dimension? Fourth,
No, I don't like that term. I think the proper way to think about it is, again, dimension is the wrong word. The way to think about that fourth dimension, if you want to call it that, is that's time space, or as Paul Harris pointed out when we were talking about the Philadelphia experiment in Montauk, that is zero time. It's also known as zero time. And in space time, we have three coordinates of space and one of time, but it's the opposite in time space, where we have three coordinates of time, which allows us to go anywhere that we want. And that allows us teleportation and time travel and all of these things to happen, and only one of space, right? So that's that inversion going on, essentially, right? Yeah.
The Russian philosopher Ouspensky had a wonderful book. I read it in the
Dimitri,
70s.
is that
And,
to do
and
with what's his name? The Gurdjieff. Ouspensky was Gurdjieff's a student of Gurdjieff. Yeah,
Georgiev was
my uncle and auntie have been in the Gurdjieff Society since the 1950s. You know,
is that the right pronunciation? Because I heard it Georgiev,
Gurdjieff,
but
Gurdjieff. How do you
not.
pronounce it? Gurdjieff or Gurdjieff? Gurdjieff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
So
any
they
case, I was going to share what Ouspensky said about the nature of dimensionality and time. He said the nature of time is a consciousness being at a certain level perceives so many three space dimension or space dimensions, and we experience three. He said and then the next dimension up, you can only experience it a slice at a time. And when you experience it slice by slice, that becomes the notion of time. So he made this philosophical insight. It was a consciousness construct the ability to perceive the next dimension up only a little bit at an instant of time. So
I was
that
talking to,
could be anyway. That was his thesis, regardless of the dimensionality
I was
of the
talking to
being.
a friend of mine about many dimensions, many higher dimensions. Mentioned it to my auntie, who's I don't know, she's 35 years older than me, but and she said I think there's a fourth dimension. I'm not sure about the others. I spoke to my friend about that. She said she got that from Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff believed that.
Fourth spatial dimension, right?
He believed. I think he believed there was a fourth spatial dimension, but not a fifth or a sixth.
Well, that brings up an interesting concept. Like Morey said, what if you were a ninth density, ninth dimensional being? Space is very different for you, and there's probably very few entities floating around and kind of rarefied. But how would they perceive it?
Oh,
I believe they would perceive it the same way we perceive our dimension.
they would be so advanced that the concept that their dimensionality would be so much greater that the analogy was, I think he used it, or the global brain used it. An advanced mind will naturally have its spatial dimensions, and the awareness of what's going on there is the same awareness that a single skin cell of your body, what would it perceive? It could not perceive the dimensionality that we see. Its
Well,
perception
the
abilities are
consciousness is limitless. The consciousness is limitless in what
right,
its
right.
potential is.
And so as the consciousness self-organizes into greater consciousness, they open up naturally more dimensions to their existence.
To the
And
source,
they
anything is
naturally
possible.
just,
To the
yeah,
source,
yeah,
anything is possible. Anything is.
Well,
right. So
here's a thought. Here's an additional thought. I know from personal experience, the highest dimensionals can put on a bodysuit. It takes them 4.5 hours so that it properly integrates with their nervous system. And they can downstep their dimensionality. They can fully be comfortable and materialize in our low frequency dimension. They can also go up a couple levels if they want, but it is completely integrated with the nervous system. It takes them a lot of time to get into the damn thing. But what does that mean?
I mean,
What the hell is that
the
doing
yogis,
with their
mystics,
consciousness?
some of
How
these
is it modifying their dimensionality and their density frequency to do
some of
that?
these yogis and mystics in India say that the universe is mind. The universe doesn't exist. It's an illusion. They're just consciousness. And
Well, it may be possible, but they're also physical beings. They're
Yeah.
anthropomorphic physical beings. They can be light beings, but they can also manifest as a physical humanoid being. I have no doubt it's completely unambiguous. It happens all the time. And so I'm asking, that's a bit of a tidbit for us to understand and try to talk about, just like we're doing right now. This is disclosure when they do these things. They don't say anything. They don't tell you how it works, but they want you to fucking think about it.
It's like they have the ability to transcend with their consciousness through the densities, right? So they can come down to ours, they can go up a bit, and that's part of the key. And I think the dodecahedron
Yes.
is the key on Earth for us to realize that, because for the ancient Greeks, that was the ultimate secret, with Plato and those guys. It wasn't public knowledge about the dodecahedron. Everybody knew about the tetrahedron that symbolized fire. The hexahedron, the cube, is earth. The octahedron is air. The icosahedron is water. But the secret fifth element, or the ether or the spirit, is the dodecahedron. And they kept that secret for a long time. And it eventually,
there's different levels. There's different levels or different levels of looking at it, isn't there? So I mean,
yeah.
It's our connection to the non-local and
There you go.
which is time space.
And to
And
one, universal.
Very good.
one.
And remember too that it's the dodecahedron that's inverting, and so when it inverts, it goes into time space, into non-local, and then when it explodes again, it comes back out into our reality, and then it goes back in again. And every time that pulses, that's the blinking universe that records the Akashic record.
And so if you backtrack over the issue, the discussions of our 12-stranded DNA, what Ed is discussing here is we are baked into our DNA, very fundamental, is an extraordinary resonance. We are completely tied to the Turing wave system. And so along comes King Anu, Emperor Anu, discovers what the hell we really are, scares the shit out of him, goes ahead and gestates Enlil, biggest jackass in the galaxy. And the last 350,000 years have been a total shit show. And oh, by the way, if you listen to Lena Denon this past Monday, she explained all this, the retribution that he's going to allow us any help that we need after making that huge fucking mistake 300,000 years ago. With Enlil, he's already acquiesced and said, okay, the Psychar are gone. We're going to help you all, anything you want. And so they started looking at our DNA and what the hell is at the heart of it? A dodecahedron. How the hell does that happen?
which leads us into something else that we haven't done yet, but we've done the paper already on the heart's fifth chamber, which actually has this dodecahedron in it. Basically, that is, it's the core engine of how all life functions. So yeah,
and how we can connect locally to cosmic.
Yeah,
that is absolutely unique. If
So
we
I
do,
just
in
think-
fact, if we do in fact become the architects, the ancient builders, our ability to transcend time physically is absolutely inherent to that whole story that Elena talks about. We to physically go into the past and build these gigantic structures that everybody else in the universe is, who the hell built these things? Oh, Terran humans did it. And we figured out time. Well, how do we do that? Because baked into our DNA is the whole secret of the universe, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. And so this paper that we want to go through at some point here, actually, it shows the connection between the dodecahedron and the Turing wave and how life functions, and magnetohydrodynamics, because that's our pulsing aura, or the sun's pulsing aura, or the planet's pulsing aura. There's a direct connection. The magnetohydrodynamics is actually a direct energy conversion from the ether. And I can show you that in my mechanical engineering Bible that I bought like 45 years ago. And I opened it up and highlighted the page of that, and then put it aside. And about 5 years ago, when I started talking about all this again, it was like, hey, I should go check that out. And there it was, still marked and whatnot, right? So, and
So
magneto.
you remember the movie The Hunt for Red October, right?
Mhm.
Oh, disclosure, the caterpillar drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's actually squeezing. With that, it's squeezing it like a toothpaste tube, essentially, right? And there's a whole bunch of cool stuff on my playlist on this magnetohydrodynamics, but I've also got shows prepared that go into it more in detail, like mathematically and everything as well, too, right? It's like one of the most important things. There's only a certain amount of things that you really need to understand. The Turing wave is one of them, the dodecahedron, the ether, but what I just said as well too, right? Very important stuff. Yeah. Does anyone else have any comments or questions, or should we shut the recording off?
What is the ultimate goal of life? You know, I mean, you could say that the main purpose of life is to experience peace and bliss, and for the more mature beings to help out the less mature beings. So you teach, like you're learning. Why do you learn things? Why do you mature? So that you can help out beings that are less mature, or who don't know so much, and also to experience bliss and peace.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Some of them enjoy it a great deal because many of the very high dimensional, this has been a hell of a long time since they were third dimensional. Hundreds of millions of years, if not billions in some case. They can't even remember what the hell it was like to be us. And they're fascinated with it. And
so
that
the very advanced beings can stay in peace and bliss for very long periods of time. They can stay at this high level of consciousness for long periods. You know, where
Yeah.
we touch on it from time to time. Maybe
they can make the whole side of a mountain glow with their aura, for Christ's sake.
So your
Can
question
attest
is,
to that personally.
Your question is important, Brennan. I would say that it comes down to the simple sentences. Service to others is the key to that versus service to self. So the key to life is evolution, and that's going from service to self to service to others.
Yeah, I
So
found this
knowledge
out
is an
also
important part of it, right?
in the Michael Newton's journey of about a journey of souls. You know, he was fine. The younger souls up to about stage 3, they were doing their own thing. When they get to stage 4 and 5, they're becoming guides and assistant guides. So they learn they're now helping out. They have their own soul group, and they're teachers to the less advanced souls. The less
Yeah.
advanced souls, from stage 1, 2, 3, they're kind of like learning about reincarnation, learning about life and things, but they're not really helping any. They're not service to others. They're more service to self, I suppose. I don't know, but when you get to assistant guides, spirit guides, and master guides, their main purpose is to help, to guide, and to help the less mature ones. You know,
This is probably a good point point to jump in and start talking about the Envoy program, because it's when you speak about these things, what it is a star seed is known as somebody whose planetary matrix is not Earth. So, in other words, everyone's soul attaches to a planet in this one dimension that is our universe. And when you go past that and say, okay, how can we help others? And we're not from here, but we're going to come here and help. That's exactly what the Envoy program is about.
and that's
And
what
if you learn,
the advanced extraterrestrials. Their main purpose is to help those who are not so
well,
advanced. That's their main
exactly.
purpose.
If you learn about the Cedars and the book that Elena wrote, and especially the Intergalactic Confederation, then you'll understand the Envoy program. A lot of the people that are on the Envoy program are likely have connections back to the Cedars and the Intergalactic Confederation,
But you
not
get a
just
lot
the
out of
Galactic Confederation of Worlds, right?
you get a lot out when you
Because
help other people, or you guide up or teach or help other people. You get a lot out of it, you know. And this is more advanced consciousness, you know. So
I
well,
just want to point out. I just want to point out that there are no others.
I know others. All right,
that's true.
from what was that? Bending Spoon, you mean?
Well, no, like the Matrix. Yes, the Matrix movie.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
Yeah, I mean,
But there was a black cat.
Ramana Maharshi said that one time that there are no beings to become enlightened, and nothing really exists. That is the ultimate truth. He said it didn't really help people that much, because he said there are no beings to be enlightened, and the world does not really exist, and that is the ultimate truth, something like that. But he said that doesn't really help people much with their everyday life. You know, it's just
right. What am I going to do? Right. I don't exist.
Yeah, that's why guys like Susskind have talked about the holographic universe. It's kind of metaphorical, right? But we sense that something is wrong with our reality, or it's incomplete. And they says, okay, it's just holographic. Well, what the hell does that mean? That means the meat is not there for us to chew on. It's metadata, like the dancing witch at Disneyland. You know, we only see an outline of reality. The real thing is maybe not for us to ever know until we get back to source. Maybe it takes that long.
Yeah,
It's like
I'll share
the
what
Play-Doh
Pete.
cave analogy,
Yeah,
right?
Uh,
Like,
it's a real mystery.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Murray?
Yeah, Peter Russell, I think he wrote 2 books on the global brain. I remember reading it in the 80s. And he was more looking at biology as a system, and he noticed across the spectrum of the biology, he says when individual beings that are same species get a large enough population, he says there's a pattern in nature. Either they turn into a coherent being as an integrated being, or or they just self-destruct. It goes one way or the other because it can't sustain itself when there's too much of it. But when it flips into the coherent being, and he would point out the number about 10 billion. He seems like when you get about 10 billion of something, it starts to go coherent. So he gave the example of 10 billion brain cells, and all of a sudden we have new consciousness. And then when the being becomes an integrated being, its perception of reality completely transforms. And he gave the analogy of our consciousness and awareness versus a single skin cell on us. He said that's the change in what can be conceived, that it's such a different consciousness you really can't say what it is. We can't experience it compared to what it will become. And the other good analogy that helps with dimensionality is Flatland, the book that was written way back by the math professor to teach you how to think in terms of higher dimensions, because we can't conceive of the physical fourth dimension all at once, but we can conceive of the other direction, pretend what it's like to be a flatlander and you're constrained to a plane and you have no idea of up and down, and use that analogy to understand higher dimensions. And it was a very cute book. Have you guys read it? It was like, to me, it's
I read a bit of it.
No,
I read
I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna check it out though.
Yeah, it was written in the 1800s. It was a math guy that wrote it. It gives you a good intuitive understanding of what it's like to have less dimensionality and be constrained in consciousness. And that was the point of the book, right? And at one point in the story, a higher dimensional creature lifts up our poor flatlander and kind of lets him scan across what it looks like from the higher dimension, and it could not process it. And it reminded me of people talking about DMT. It's like a kaleidoscope of images, because you.
I wonder that if in the future, when we're more advanced, the more advanced civilizations, we'll come to a place where we don't fear death because we know we know it's just there is no death. We just move on. So we'll get to a place where most people don't really fear death. That would be very liberating.
Right. Well, that's very important, and we have that now, and our religions are all based on that, right? You go on, your consciousness doesn't stop. You go on, and then depending on the religion, they try to hijack and says, well, what your next life will be, etc. But the idea here, the main idea was the consciousness, the greater consciousness of perception. You cannot conceive of it, or it's beyond words. And so when people go into deep meditation, they can't describe as they taste what it's like to experience a higher consciousness. There's no words they can use because the mapping is just not there from our biological perspective, the way we're developed here. But as we move on, as we integrate into a greater being, like Gaia would be it's like every human being is a brain cell of the earth. All of a sudden, we're become a connected being, and a good sign will be, we have clear channel telepathy with each other. We really become connected. Now we know we are a connected being, and we can no longer go to war because it's like the right hand picking up a knife and stabbing the left hand. You can't do that once you realize you're an integrated being.
And there are ET civilizations that don't have technology. They can teleport and levitate and telepathic, and they don't believe in war. They won't get involved in war.
War because they who are they warring against? It's themselves. They know that they are the others, and look at that. All near-death experience is telepathic communication. All ET contact is telepathic communication, and so we're meant to be that way. And so Gaia is the global being needs to wake up to become conscious and aware that we become aware, we're an integrated being. We are each other. And that stops all wars instantly. It stops harming others instantly.
Reminds me of
the collective consciousness.
Yeah. Awakens.
Yeah,
that was the second book by Peter Russell. The Global Brain Awakens was the second book.
So question, Maury,
I really...
Did he have any prognostications on how that change would occur? Would it be gradual, progressive, or tsunami-like, where all of a sudden all the individuals on this planet realize we are completely connected, almost within a period of a couple of years, everything becomes coherent.
And
That's my gut feel, but
and
I
we
just
help.
wanted to hear everybody else's.
Yeah, the analogy was, oh, we seem separate. The analogy you use, oh, you're in a supersaturated of solution, and then if you put one little seed in, the whole thing turns into a crystal following the little seed. And reminds me of Ice Nine from Cat's Cradle, right? You guys know what I'm referring to. Well, anyway, it's just, but the idea where this happens naturally, supersaturations turn into crystals, but it needs a little seed to start it, and that's where we help. We like star seeds, a great analogy, because we are the seeds for the consciousness transformation that occurs across
Yeah.
humanity. So I think it'll happen by surprise. One day, human race will wake up and find out it has telepathy with each other. We all have telepathy with each other, and then we're moving into, and we really need to move there to get out of the war thing, because
Yeah.
the technology is way too powerful. We can just keep blow ourselves up. So we have to get the consciousness up to the level of all the other races.
It surprises me why the sea car haven't destroyed themselves. If they're so malevolent, why wouldn't the reptilians or the sea car? Why wouldn't they have destroyed themselves if they're
Because they're still fractals of source, and they're on their own evolutionary path. We can't alter or change that. It's part of their evolution, right? And that's because they're at a lower density, essentially. So when you increase your density level, you're increasing your DNA resonance. And as you move up the scale to 12th density, which is just below source, which is kind of connected to all of this, and the 9, because the 9 are 12th density, but they're not within this universe. They're not in this dimension. They're actually in the void. They're in the uncreated. And so there's a connection back to that as well, too, right?
And free will, right? So it's
Well,
not force.
that's part of the evolution. Yeah, we all have free will, so we're all at a different spot. So your question is it all going to happen at once? I say no. It's waves that are moving around, and everyone, it's happening all the time, but it's just not going to happen all at the same rate for everyone, because everyone has free will. Until they choose to evolve, they can stay at that level, essentially, and that's what the Sakara have chosen, essentially, right? So
I
but
was
we're
just saying,
all
surprising,
fractals of sorts.
seeing as they've been around for like millions or thousands or millions of years. You would have, you would have thought, because you're thinking about us, with our technology, what we could blow ourselves up because we can't handle our technology. You'd have thought that, maybe the sea cars are a special case or whatever, but
well, maybe
you have
they were
psychopaths
coherent.
within our society who live to an old age or whatever. But
Well, they have other problems. They do not have a soul matrix. I was told that directly. They're conscious, obviously, and they're sentient. They do not have a soul.
But they're
And
still
there's no way to
fractals of
get one
source.
either.
Well, they're still all fractals of source, though. Everything in this universe is, though. That's the thing, right? So even
Well,
if you consider them good versus evil, yeah, so maybe they're on the evil side, but they're still a fractal of
nothing is good or bad.
this.
So Shakespeare was saying nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And the Tao Te Ching was saying, when people see some things as good, other things become bad. And another version says, the whole world recognizes the good as the good, yet this is only the bad. And then another version says, all can know good as good only because there is evil. Whatever, So so Rumi says, beyond ideas of good and ideas of bad or evil, there is a field. I will meet you there. So when you think, it's just because it's dualistic. It's nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's our thinking that creates good and bad. But there's in higher truths, there is no good or bad. It's just it just is what it is.
Yeah, it's like
it's whatever arises.
Yeah, it's like the Bible. When you know both good and evil, you become like us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it's the way you think when you see the horrors in the world, and you start thinking about it. It messes. When you stop thinking, you have access, like the source is everywhere. Access to the source wherever you go in the afterlife or this life, you can access the source from your heart or
Mhm.
crown chakra. You know, you can access the source wherever you go. So we can access the source right here now, wherever we go in the afterlife, wherever we go in the afterlife, you can access the source within your heart. It's
It's
accessible
through it's
anywhere you can access it. You know,
yeah,
so
and it's
thinking,
through the
and it's not thinking,
Brendan,
it's silence. It's silence. It's not the thinking creates the problems mainly, but
it's and that access to source through the heart is through the fifth chamber, through the dodecahedron, through the Turing wave, and the 12 densities essentially. And that's what that paper that I keep talking about is all about, essentially, right? It,
yeah.
ex- it explains the connection between the densities, the Turing wave, and how life functions and draws energy from the ether, essentially, right?
It reminds me of those near-death experiences when some of them have had a hellish near-death experience, and then it becomes a heavenly or a spirit world near-death experience. So they have a hellish, and then they cry out for help, or they find some of them being beaten up by demons or something or whatever, and then they call out for help, and then Buddha or Christ or whoever or Mary Magdalene brings, so, and then they go to a heavenly, or a spirit or a higher spirit world experience. So even in this kind of so-called hellish near-death experience, they have access to the source there. Even there, if they go within and find peace within, then they go back to the heavenly or whatever.
Exactly, because we're all fractals of source. We're
The
all little
source.
pieces, little chunks of source.
So wherever you go, you can
The
access
key
the
there,
source.
Brandon, is to go within.
Yeah,
It's not to look outside, not to
no,
look at the news, not to care about what everyone else is thinking. It's about to go inside and
the
feel
silence.
what your heart, right? Silence, yeah, exactly. Like
Silence.
meditation, finding
Yeah,
that your center, essentially, right? And that's where you find peace. But that's because you have a direct connection back to source. Because you're using that connection that we have, the heart's fifth chamber, the Turing wave and everything connecting us back, essentially, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
when you're in silence, you're in peace and silence. You actually, when you stop thinking and you're in peace and silence, when you start thinking again, you think much better. You think more creatively, and then
Yeah.
you go back to, like Paul Lavitt was saying in one of his books, going from creation to dissolution. You know, he was talking about Vishnu, the universe, trillions of years. Vishnu wakes up for trillions of years, and then he goes back to sleep for trillions of years, you know, and being the universe, you know, so he goes from creation and awakening to disillusion, and then to creation, dissolution, awakening to dissolution, you know, like when we stop thinking, when we're in silence and peace, we're recharging our batteries. We refresh ourselves, and then we start thinking. We think much better. We solve problems. All problems are solved within the silence and peace of the present moment.
Mhm.
All solution to all problem, even if the solution to a problem is not to solve that problem, even if the solution to the problem is to ignore that problem.
Yeah.
Everything can be solved in the present moment. You know,
Yeah. Should we shut the recording off, maybe, Brandon?
yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have
Yeah.
a wonderful rest of the day. Cheers. Bye.